Science!
All right, D-Man. So science this week. First of all, I got to shout out our amazing customer service manager, Caden, who gave me this for Christmas.
Oh, was it Secret Santa gift?
Yep.
Nice.
I love this shirt so much.
That's good.
I've actually been wearing it a lot this winter. It's been under, 10 layers of clothing.
It's nice today, though.
Knock on wood, upstate New York.
You got to think it's probably 70 degrees warmer than it was
just
week.
Last week, yeah.
It's crazy. The shit that we
crazy.
deal with. That's why we get sick so much, man.
Science. So, don't think we're not going to go to space. I do have some space news at the end of our science segment. But first, I've got something really random and weird on science. Merlin the Wizard.
I love the stories of Merlin and King Arthur and all that shit. Always gets my juices flowing. I even love that like stupid Merlin series. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, no, it was terrible.
I knew it was terrible, but I love Merlin so much that I was like, I'm dealing with it.
So, previously unknown tales of Merlin have been discovered, which is really cool. So an academic by the name of Michael Richardson was looking through 16th century books in the University of Bristol and uncovered 7 handwritten parchment fragments, and upon closer inspection, recognized some legendary names, including Merlin. And this is an actual photo of one of those pieces of parchment. And you can clearly see he's pointing to the name Merlin.
Look, there's a word. There's Merlin.
So he quickly contacted Leah Tether, the president of the International Arthurian Society, to see if his finds were true and if they were compelling at all. Tether went on to say, these fragments of the story of Merlin are a wonderfully exciting find, which may have implications for the study not just of this text, but also of other related and later texts that have shaped our modern understanding of the Arthurian legend. Now, I just want to preface this by saying the Arthurian legend, the legend of King Arthur and his vizier Merlin and the Knights of the Round Table, is hotly debated because there is evidence that some of these people were actual people that existed.
Right.
But a lot of the stories surrounding them have now become legend. The Sword in the Stone, the Wizard Merlin,
The Lady of the Lake.
the Lady of the Lake, the Knights of the Round Table, and their quests, to do these types of things.
And we've fantasticized.
Yeah,
Romanticized and Hollywoodized this story over and over and over again to the point where it's gotten convoluted and blurry as to what these legends actually are.
Right. And Tether goes on to say, time and research will reveal what further secrets about the legends of Arthur, Merlin, and the Holy Grail that these fragments might hold. Now, as the story goes, from what we know from texts, ancient texts that we've, that have talked about Arthur and Merlin before these that we found, that Arthur, Merlin, Gawain, and other knights are set preparing battle against Lancelot's father's sworn enemy, King Claudius. The tale then goes on to describe Merlin's strategizing of the attack, followed by a long description of the battle where at one point Merlin motivates the troops, then leads the charge with Sir Kay's special dragon standard, one that breathes real fire. Arthur wins the battle in the end. Now, a standard is the large pole with the flag on it. The legend is that the dragon Merlin used his magic on and would actually breathe fire. So he had a staff that actually shot fire at his enemies.
Interesting.
Which is crazy. Now, obviously, probably didn't happen.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, when we look at stories of wizards back in the day, these were just clever people that were great at taking advantage of the ignorance of their enemies.
Right.
So what if they were able to start a rumor that Arthur had this fire-breathing banner to get the the enemy troops wondering
Yep.
and maybe nervous,
Yep.
and then actually coming up with a device that would make this seem real, which is not that difficult for somebody.
Have a
low
guy
technology.
with a flaming arrow stand behind the thing and shoot the arrow. So it's like, oh shit, fire's coming out of this thing.
This is the kind of shit you could do before the internet was invented.
Oh, of course, yeah.
By Al Gore for Christian Slater.
Goodness gracious. Science. Researchers note that these newly revealed fragments depict longer, more detailed accounts of this story, and some small details and others much more glaring have been found. The texts are thought to come from the Vulgate cycle or Lancelot Grail cycle, old French texts dating back to the 13th century. It's believed that Sir Thomas Malory, the writer of the King Arthur's most famous account, used these texts as the main source for his work. All these fragments that they just found were found in books printed between 1494 and 1502. Before being sent to England, they were unbound. This style of binding these books indicates that they were likely first bound in the 16th century. And the way that in the early days of binding books like that, they would actually stick extra paper in them to make the bindings sturdier, to basically
bulk it
up a little bit. And that's these parchment that they found. It happened to be texts about the Arthurian legend that somebody was just like, this is just, extra crap. I'll just throw that in here,
Weird.
So weird, but it's so cool that we found, and they've been sitting in a library for hundreds of years and nobody's found them.
Huh.
It's really, really interesting, and it just gets your imagination flowing, you
Yeah.
know? But it's at its core, it's archaeology. Because again, people were writing these things down, even if a lot of it is not reality, like you said, some of it is, it's all birthed from something.
And even if none of it's reality, say it's all made up, it's still, what are they pulling from for influences?
Right.
It kind of gives us an idea of how people were thinking back then.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. So I thought that was something neat, something different for our science segment.
It's nice to switch it up from space and science, but let's get into space and science.
Space, yeah. There's always something new to talk about in space, and this is kind of neat. So, a terrestrial meteorite was found on the moon, and this isn't recent. This was way back in the day they found this. The lunar rock sample collected by Apollo 14 astronauts in 1971 contains traces of minerals with a chemical composition common to Earth and very unusual for the moon. And this is according to research led by Dr. Jeremy Bellucci from the Swedish Museum of Natural History. The rock may originally be from Earth, but was thrown into space when an asteroid struck our planet maybe about 4 billion years ago. The two moon-exploring crewmen of Apollo 14 photographed and collected the large rock pictured just above the exact center of this photograph. And basically, this was added to a lot of the other material that came back from that mission, from Apollo 14. And it's taken us this long to really sift through all of that.
That's
stuff,
intense.
you know?
Yeah, I'm sure they grabbed a lot. I'm sure they grabbed whatever they could, and we're just still going through it all.
Yeah. Its scientific name, for those of you wondering, even though you're not, is Lunar Breccia 14321. It basically... They took a photo of it, they took this rock, and now they're finding out that the granite that it's being comprised of is actually terrestrial origin. It's actually from Earth and not from the moon. Dr. Bellucci and other professors said the 1.8 gram fragment showed mineralogy similar to that of granite, which is extremely rare on the moon but common on Earth, and it also contains quartz, which is even more unusual to find on the moon.
Yeah, because you don't have that volcanic reactions happening on the moon, at least not like it does on Earth.
Right. It is an extraordinary find that helps paint a better picture of early Earth and the bombardment that modified our planet during the dawn of life. That was added by team member Dr. David Kring. And then, so this relic, this rock, is basically a fragment of the past. It's
kind of like a time capsule.
Yeah, this is showing us the birth of our solar system.
Yeah.
You know, and we were talking about this, looking at the Kuiper Belt object, Ultima Thule.
Yeah.
Because that is also billions of years old, and we're looking at the birth of planets out there. And it's the same kind of thing. We're finding these rocks, but it's interesting that this rock's we took this off the moon, 40 plus years ago, and just now we're able to extrapolate this data almost 48 years ago, which is crazy. So Apollo 14 was the third Apollo mission to land on the moon, launching January 31st, 1971, landing on the moon on February 5th, and returning to Earth on February 9th. So they're only on the moon for 2 days. That consisted of these three men: Commander Alan Shepard, who was the first American ever in space, and then Command Module Pilot Stuart Roosa and Lunar Module Pilot Edgar Mitchell. Alan and Mitchell were the fifth and sixth men ever to walk on the moon, respectively. And there's a picture of Alan right there with the American flag from Apollo 14. And this was the first time that the astronauts wore red stripes on their suits, so they were easily identified in photographs. This is a color-corrected photograph, but the black and white photographs, sometimes the suits, especially if the astronauts were far away, would get lost in the rocks. So that stripe would allow the cameras to kind of hone in on it a little bit better. Alan, not only being the first man in space, also gained fame for this mission because he hit 2 golf balls on the moon. And I have video of that from the moon, from the Apollo 14 mission, right here.
Houston, while you're looking that up, you might recognize what I have in my hand as the handle for the contingency sample return. It just so happens to have a Inuit 6-iron on the bottom of it. In my left hand, I have a little white pellet that's familiar to millions of Americans. Drop it down. Unfortunately, the suit is so stiff I can't do this with 2 hands, but I'm going to try a little sand trap shot here. They got more dirt than ball this time. Got more dirt than ball. Here we go again. That looked like a slice to me, Al. There we go. Breathe the die. One more. Miles and miles and miles.
Wow.
That's pretty cool, right?
That's weird.
Like, he got to smuggle a 6-iron up there and hit a couple golf balls. I think that's, hey, if you're going to go to the moon, you got to do something crazy like that.
I hope some alien's flying around on a UFO right now and that golf ball is just hitting their windshield and cracking
What is
it.
Titleist?
They're going to land on Earth. Bring me your leader of Titleist.
Oh, man. Pretty
have
great,
words
though.
with him.
And we're still learning stuff from this incredible mission, Apollo 14, back in 1971.
It's incredible.
Incredible.